Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to day 8. We are on day 8 already. Um, Before we jump in, and happy Monday. Happy Monday. We started last Monday. So one whole week in, we are. That is exciting. Just a few more to go. Just a few more. Give people We'll go over some housekeeping just as people are signing up. I just wanted to say a couple things. I am so excited about a few of you are letting me know, whether it's via messages or email or however, um, you're giving me feedback of how this is um, affecting you, ministering to you, this challenge. And you know what? For every person, there's something different that stands out, something different that is just, kind of getting to you, right? Speaking to you. And that's the whole point, right? Two people can listen to the same message and get a whole different message from it. So that's exciting to me. And thanks for letting me know. I love that. I love the feedback, even if it's one idea, one sentence, one word can change your life. One word, especially from God, right? So that's exciting to me. So thanks for doing that. Hey, good morning, Nancy. All right, good to see you. So yes, I just want to keep encouraging you, even if you can't make the lives. And quite a few of you already are. Catch the replays, right? And you don't have to watch them. You can just have them playing in the background. And the best place for that is, like I have said a million times, the website, because they're nice and in order. And Facebook, now that we're on day 8, it gets messier with the more posts that are on and just all the things. So go to the website, which can I post a comment? I think I can. Let me see. I haven't actually tried to do this while I was on a live. Let's see if it works. And it did. Ta-da. That's the website to go to catch the replays. Best place. Okay, so I wanted to say that lots of you are still reaching out to me about the commitment device, which is what he calls it in the challenge that we're doing. I call it a consistency calendar, whatever. You're reaching out that you want the PDF that I offered for those that are doing the challenge for free. And I can email that to you. It's a PDF, so you have to let me know what your email is. And our email is, oh my goodness. Okay, let's see here. Let me do that. Renaissance Life Ministries at gmail.com. Okay, so the website's there. The email is there if you're interested in getting the commitment device. And if you're wondering what mine is, it's a whole year at a glance, and each sheet is a habit. And so you are checking off when you've accomplished that habit. Now, is this to bring condemnation when you don't do it? No, but it helps you track patterns in your life, right? And I was thinking this morning, I was praying for you guys here at the office before I came on live, and a few ideas that I want to share with you before we jump into today's reading. But I do in the nutrition part of my life realm, and I'm doing some free in-person things this week, so it's at the forefront of my mind. But I call them fit for the assignment, fit for your assignment. And I was thinking about this challenge, and being fit for our assignment is not just in the physical arena. even though I have a whole teaching on that and why it's important. But I was thinking about boot camp, right? The whole idea of boot camp. And we need to be, I was thinking about, all the end time events that are happening right now. And so the mindset could be, well, what does it matter? Why would doing a habit challenge matter in the light of all this other stuff that's going on? So here's what I believe. I believe at this time, more than ever, now would it be great if we had started earlier, but we could say that about our whole life. Like I should have, I could have. We can't do that. So start today. But I believe that in light of the events that are going on, as a believer, the things that we believe are coming down the pipe, we need to be in place. We need to be doing our assignment more than ever, right? Not bumbling along, right? And so in order to fulfill our assignment, the very thing that we were created to do on this earth, we need to be physically, mentally fit for that, right? And I think our enemy is just really, he's been around for a long time, right? So he also is strategic in how he wants us to be distracted, right? Distracted with all kinds of other things so that we're not fulfilling our assignment. So part of what I believe this is for me, and I believe it is for others because I'm hearing some of the testimonies, is it's like sharpening you. When I've been praying the last few days, I've been seeing a pencil sharpener, right? We're getting sharpened, right? We're getting ready. We're getting fit for our assignment, right? And we have to take that idea from being out here and sort of big and mysterious. We have to take that idea and break it down. What does that look like daily, right? And so that's why we're doing this challenge. That's why I have said numerous days, we have to decide, does this matter? When you're looking at building habits and whatever you've decided that those are the things you want to work at, you have to decide if it matters. And for me, especially in light of all the craziness that's happening, it matters. It matters that we're a sharpened pencil, right? I love pencils. I really like writing with pencils. And when this pencil gets dull, it is a pain in my side. I hate it. It doesn't, right? Where's my sharpener? Right? And so our lives are sort of the same way, right? Things just go smoother when we're sharp, right? When we're ready and fit for the assignment. So I was thinking about that. I also wanted to say to you guys, trust the process. So we're on day 8 today. Maybe day 7 was like, I didn't get nothing out of that day. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You keep going, right? You've made a commitment, just like I did, that we're doing this for 30 days. So some days are going to be like, wow, that was just what I needed. The next day might be like, whoosh, don't get it. But here's what I've learned about doing things like this, working on this part of myself, is that you just keep on keeping on, and something could click on day 18. We don't know that ahead of time. So that's why we do it for a day. Oh, I covered day, right? We make that's why we're learning about doing it for a day. So we're not going to get caught up on, one day was great, the next day didn't mean nothing, right? Just every day we're showing up, right? Every day we're doing the thing, whatever it is. So trust the process. When we read faith building books, when we listen to people that have gone before us, we have to trust the process that they're a few steps ahead of us and they've been down this road, and we're trusting that when they say do this, that something changes if we just do it, right? Not start and stop and start and stop. So anyway, I wanted to encourage you with that. Trust the process. And if you still are struggling with maybe what habits to implement, just let that go. I just trust me, something will kick in on some day and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what needs to be sharpened in my life or changed or habit, if it's a habit you want to break or make, whichever. And so I, in light of that, make sure you keep notes, because what happens to me sometimes is, okay, so day 4 was like, but then as I'm going along, something triggers back to that day. And I'm like, what was it that he said? What was it that happened that day? Right? If you keep notes, then you can quickly refer back to that. And that's also why having the videos, for replay is a benefit, because you could go back and listen to it too. And if you live in a country where you have access to purchase, you are always more than welcome to get the book. Do it for a day. We just have a lot of people participating that don't have access to that. So that's why I'm on reading it. So we are going to trust the process. And this might be your boot camp prep. I don't know. Everybody is at a whole, different places that are participating. And so I just know it's time. It's time for the body, meaning the church, to wake up, to sharpen up. Good morning, Balmati. I see you there. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. It's time. It's time for us as these pencils. And see, look, this pencil needs to be sharpened. It's just, yep, I've been using it and I've been frustrated because it's dull. Well, guess what? I have to get up and sharpen it. And I've just been lazy to walk 2 feet to the sharpener. But we're not going to be lazy, right? We are putting ourselves in a position to say, Lord, sharpen me. I want to be fit for my assignment. So whatever it takes, whatever habits need to be made or broken, we're willing. Amen. High five. Yes. Okay. So welcome those that are catching this on the live. You know that I love to have a comment where you're watching from, or just a good morning or something to know you're here. And of course, I love all my replayers. I've got a lot of you. And that, you know what, that means a lot too, because this isn't about me. This is about how it's going to change you. And so when you listen to the message, and that's on your own time frame, but I believe God's going to do some great things as we get sharpened. Okay, let's jump into day 8. We are 1 week in. Literally, we started last Monday, and it really does. There's a momentum. I think I mentioned that a few days back. There's just a momentum as each day goes by. All right, let's get started. Day 8. Let me see where I want to put my book here. In my mind, this is what us people that do lives think. Which is our better angle? Like, if I go like this, is this a good side? If I go like that, you know what? Today, there's just no good side. That's why I've got the hat on. So, whatever. That's why it's not fair. You guys could be watching me in your pajamas and nobody knows the difference. I have to come and I have to think, oh, God dang it. I should. So anyway, just bear with me because I'm not here to look pretty. All right, day 8. Our scripture verse for today is Hebrews 11:1. And it says, faith is being sure of what we hope for. On September 9th, 1965, James Stockdale was flying a mission over Vietnam when the plane he piloted was shot down. He parachuted into a village where he was captured by the Viet Cong. Stockdale would spend almost 8 years as a prisoner of war at the infamous Hanwha Hilton. His concrete cell measured 3 feet by 9 feet with no windows. As a senior naval officer, he was routinely tortured and denied medical treatment. How do you survive 8 years in those kinds of circumstances? How do you overcome that kind of physical and psychological trauma? In the words of James Stockdale, I never lost faith in the end of the story. If you forget how the story ends, it's awfully easy to lose faith, lose hope, and lose courage. I know life is unfair. I know pain and suffering are far too prevalent. I know there are an awful lot of wrongs that need to be made right. Can I tell you what else I know? I know how the story ends. Woohoo! The kingdom of this world is becoming the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever. God's aim looks like missing the mark, said Oswald Chambers, because we are too short-sighted to see what he is aiming at. We don't believe in happily ever after. We believe in something so much bigger, better, longer, and stronger. Happily forever after. When it comes to making and breaking habits, remembering the past is incredibly important. It's one way we pop the periscope on our present circumstances and gain perspective. The farther backward you can look, said Winston Churchill, the farther forward you can see. Hindsight is incredibly important, but it has to be coupled with foresight. History is the way that we do remember the past. Prophecy is the way we remember the future. The Bible gives us a sneak peek at where history is headed. The day is coming when every nation, tribe, people, and language will worship around the throne. The way you remember the future is going to the back of the book. The book. While we're on the subject, prayer is the way we write history before it happens. When I was a student, I loved open book tests. They weren't any easier than closed book tests, but I knew I could find the answer if I looked long enough, hard enough, and smart enough. Life is an open book test, and the way you pass the test is by going to the back of the book. Don't lose faith in the end of the story. In his classic book, Good to Great, Jim Collins asked James Stockdale about the prisoners who didn't survive their captivity. Now, this is interesting. According to Stockdale, it was the optimists who didn't make it. Why? They were perpetually disappointed by false expectations. We'll be released by Christmas, they would say. But Christmas would come and go along with Easter and Thanksgiving. They died of a broken heart, said Stockdale. So how did he survive? I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end. But Stockdale didn't stop there. I would turn the experience into the defining event of my life, which in retrospect, I would not trade. A few years ago, I was part of a panel with my friend Bob Goff. Bob has a way of dropping the mic by dropping one-liners. I can't even remember the original question, but this was Bob's answer. The best chapter titles come later. You can't have a chapter titled Comeback without a chapter titled Setback. The same goes for failure and success. So maybe you're in a chapter titled Pain and Suffering. Don't lose faith in the end of the story. Hope and healing are coming. Fun fact, during the same panel discussion, Bob Goff shared a story that predates his daughter. Yeah, this is interesting. Before she was born, Bob wrote a note. This was before she was born. He wrote a note forgiving her for getting into an accident and crashing the car. He put that note in a jar and he buried it in the ground. And sure enough, 17 years later, his daughter crashed their car. Bob gave her a shovel along with the latitude and longitude of where that jar was buried. She dug it up and discovered that her father had already forgiven her before she was even born. That's awesome, isn't it? If that isn't remembering the future, I'm not sure what is. Let me double back to James Stockdale for a moment. Reflecting on 8 years as a prisoner of war, Stockdale said, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever that might be." Jim Collins dubbed it the Stockdale paradox, and it's one key to making and breaking habits. You have to confront the brutal facts, but you do so with unwavering faith. Jesus said it this way: "In this world, you will have trouble." Pain and suffering shouldn't come as a surprise. Why? Because we live in a broken world, a fallen world. But Jesus added a critical conjunction: "But take heart, I have overcome the world." When injustice slaps you in the face, it stings. When sorrow overwhelms your soul, it can be hard to stay afloat. If you go through a divorce or you're dealing with a sickness, it's hard sometimes to know which way is up. I'll say it once again for good measure. Don't lose faith in the end of the story. You have to imagine the prize. You have to be sure of what you hope for and certain of what you don't see. That's faith. That's easier said than done, but when you can't see past today, do it for a day. Right? Do it for today. Let me bring this down to earth and apply it to habit formation. On August 13th, 2008, Michael Phelps won the gold medal in the 200-meter butterfly, setting a new world record. It was one of the 6 gold medals that Phelps won in the Beijing Games, but it may be his most impressive. Why? His goggles were dislodged when he dove into the swimming pool, and he lost his vision. When Phelps made the last turn, all he could do was count his strokes. He had to swim blind, sort of. The reality? He had already made the swim that morning in his mind, and the night before, and the day before, and the day before that. Michael Phelps had been visualizing his races since he was a teenager. As a teenager, Phelps had a hard time calming down before races. His coach, Bob Bowman, bought him a book of relaxation exercises that Phelps' mom read to him every night. The book contained a script: tighten your right hand into a fist and release it. Imagine the tension melting away. That exercise helped Phelps relax and eventually fall asleep. It also exercised his imagination. After every practice, Coach Bowman told him to go home and watch the videotape. Michael Phelps would visualize the perfect race twice a day, every day. During practices and meets, his coach would shout, "Put in the videotape." Every time Phelps dove into the water, he was remembering the future. It was mind over matter. That's how he won the gold medal, even when his goggles were filled with water. A lesser swimmer might have panicked, but not Michael Phelps. When a reporter asked him what it felt like to swim blind, Phelps said, "It felt like I imagined it would." We have a tendency to remember what we should forget and forget what we should remember. That's how we get stuck in the past or fixated on the future. How do we manage memory and steward imagination? We remember the past by building altars. We remember the future by setting goals. Then we visualize them in vivid detail, just like Michael Phelps did. Keep going to the back of the book. Keep putting in the videotape. Starting tomorrow, we're going to unpack 7 daily habits. Flip the script, kiss the wave, eat the frog, fly the kite, cut the rope, wind the clock, and seed the clouds. Try to be fully present every day. That's a constant battle. So let me share a centering prayer. It's not unlike the visualization exercise that Michael Phelps practiced, but we're adding God to the equation. It will help you remember the future while staying focused on each day's challenge. The Quakers often employed body posture in their prayers. They would start with their hands out, palms down, symbolizing the things they needed to let go of. Give it a try. Is there anything, so hands out, palms down, symbolizing what you need to let go of? Is there anything you've been obsessing over? Is there anything you're anxious about? Is there anyone you need to forgive, including yourself? Just let it go. Give it to God. He's got this and he's got you. Once you feel like you've placed all of your hurts, bad habits, hang-ups into the hands of God, turn your hands over. In this posture of receptivity, welcome his presence, his power, his peace. Let it guard your heart and your mind. While you're at it, ask for a fresh infilling of the Holy Spirit. To be filled with the Holy Spirit, said Simon Ponsonby, leaves no room to be filled with anything else. There is an old adage, look both ways. It's timeless advice, isn't it? It's awfully important when it comes to crossing a street. It's equally important when it comes to making and breaking habits. At this juncture in our journey, take a deep breath. If you're anything like me, you have a long way to go when it comes to making and breaking habits. It's going to feel like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, which can be discouraging, but keep reminding yourself of how far you've already come. So how do I make it a habit? Is this where you stop? Dan Sullivan is the co-founder of Strategic Coach and an expert in entrepreneurship. He attributes his success to a no-quit mindset. After high school, he went on an outward-bound expedition in Scotland. During an excruciating hike through treacherous terrain, Sullivan took off his backpack and sat down. He was ready to quit. That's when one of the outward-bound guides asked him a question that would change the trajectory of his life. Is this where you stop? The confused look on Sullivan's face prompted an explanation. Everybody stops somewhere. Is this where you stop? Sullivan was spent, well past 40%. We've all been there and done that, right? You feel like you have nothing left in the tank. That's when you have to make a choice. Is this where you stop? Or is this when you dig a little deeper, try a little longer? At some point, almost everything you've accomplished seemed impossible. When you were 6 months old, that was true of walking. When you were in kindergarten, you weren't solving algebraic equations. Your goal may seem like 1,000 miles away, but if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you will get there sooner or later. The hill in front of Dan Sullivan looked like Everest, but that's when he made a declaration. This is not where I stop. Sullivan is a plodder with 2 Ds. He picked up his pack and he put one foot in front of the other. When he reached his destination several days later, that same guide who asked him that game-changing question said this: if you had stopped on the hill that day, your life would have been difficult. You would have been tempted to quit any time you faced a struggle in the future. Whenever Dan Sullivan faces what seems to be an insurmountable challenge, he now asks himself that question: is this where I stop? And I've always answered that question, he said with a resounding no. I've been tempted to quit a time or 2 or 10. The thing that has kept me going? Remembering the future. In my first year pastoring, I was tempted to throw in the towel. If I had quit, it would have affected only 20 people at the time, and all of them could have found a way more mature church to attend. This part's important, guys. But I also would have been quitting on the tens of thousands of people that we would affect in the future. And you know, I'm one of them because his ministry has affected me. He would have been quitting on the 273 mission trips that they've taken. He would have been quitting on Ebenezer's Coffee House and the DC Dream Center. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? When you get overwhelmed by your present circumstances, remember the future. Go back to your life goal list. Go back to your core values. Go back to the back of the book. I have no idea what habit you're trying to make or break, but let me pop the question at this juncture. Is this where you stop? If you're still breathing, God hasn't given up on you. Don't give up on God, and don't give up on yourself. Remember the future. Wow. That is powerful, isn't it? You know what I was thinking as I was reading there at the end? Remember our introduction? Let me remind you. I did say I was going to read this quite a few times and I forgot. This may seem like a self-help book, what we're doing, this challenge, but I promise you it is so much more. At the end of the day, these habits that we're working on, they're not just about you. They're all about loving God and loving others. Bad habits can have a negative impact to the third and fourth generations. You don't break bad habits just for you. You do it for your kids and for your grandkids. You do it for friends and family, neighbors, employers. That's why we're doing this, right? The future, our kids, our grandkids, right? So, is this where you stop? No, not me. Not me. If you agree with me, put it in the comments. This is not where I stop. This is not where I stop. Wow, that was a good day. See, I don't know. That's just how this goes. Some days it's kind of like, right? But we keep going. We're not stopping. This challenge is 30 days. We'll deal with what we're doing next later. All right. Thank you guys for joining me this morning on day 8. Again, love my livers, love my replayers. And keep the comments coming, or some of you are reaching out to me via messaging and you're giving me feedback on how or what pieces are really ministering to you or convicting you or whatever. And I love to hear that. That's great. One more shout out. If you're interested in the commitment device, I don't call it that, but that's what he calls this, that I use to help me stay focused. Email me and I will send you a PDF. You can have it for free. Anybody that's doing the challenge, I'm offering this free. It's just for those that are hopping on new, haven't been with us yet. I have tried many habit trackers, many things to try to keep me focused. Some of them are great, pretty, and they did not work for me. They did not help me. So what I'm offering for you is what works for me. And you might get it and it might not be the one. So keep searching for something like we learned in our challenge that will be a commitment device, something that kind of holds the line for you to stay committed to these habits that you've decided, you predetermined that they matter, right? And we've already talked about all this, whether it's in the physical arena, which, as a nutritionist, I have a whole passion in that area, but it could be spiritually. The Lord could be dealing with you about upping your game in your prayer life, right? Maybe you've always had a daily habit of just prayer, but you've never made worship a habit where you just get away and you're not praying about something specific, but you're just worshiping him. Maybe you've never did that. So that's actually a habit, bring that down, Bring that thing that you think he's challenging you on. And what does that look like daily? I don't know. Maybe that means turning on Spotify to a worship channel, to, creating that space. And you say, I'm staying here for 5 minutes and I'm not going to talk to the Lord about what I need and all that. I'm just going to worship him. I encourage you to track that, right? If he told you to do it, it's important and it must matter, right? So anyway, that's your commitment device. If you want mine, email me and I can get that to you. Yeah, this is not where we stop. All right, bless you guys. I will see you tomorrow for day 9. Enjoy your Monday, everybody.